flow. Time to open up another door. See my past in the rear view, but
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Gomez, and you're listening to my podcast, Evolve. My goal is to help those that feel stuck in life, causing depression and lack of motivation. I will be interviewing individuals with accomplishments and on the road to success. With these conversations, I hope you may find the words that inspire you to go after what makes you happy. Today, my special guest is the father of 2 boys, husband, vintage car enthusiast, founder and owner of MaxFit Market and MaxFit Meals, which was once just a vitamin and supplemental store back in 2004 to now including a lounge, smoothie bar, selling merch, and meal preps. But not just meal preps locally. MaxFit Meals has recently went nationally. Help me welcome Kris Spencer. What's
Right
up,
on.
man?
Hey, well, that's quite the introduction, and I really appreciate it. If my wife is watching, we'll go ahead and put husband at the top of the food chain,
Yeah.
there, right? starts there, and the rest came. Well, thank you for having me. First, I'm humbled. I'm honored to be here. I've seen you in the shop a lot over the years. I think almost, can I say decade at this point?
Yeah, I
maybe?
believe it's going to be over a decade, yeah.
But I've seen the positive changes in yourself. And when you asked me to come on this podcast, I couldn't say no. So, all right, I know
Appreciate that.
a talker, so I'll shut up and let you get going.
Well, if it's okay with you, I really want to go back to your teenage years. I understand that you come from a broken home, and listeners, the listeners that I want to, listen to this podcast or watch this podcast may also come from broken homes as well. So, I want to know, who was Kris Spencer freshman year of high school?
Okay. How did you know that, by the way? You got your ways. Okay. We'll talk later. I do come from a broken home. My father and mother, I forget. Yeah, it was actually probably right before my freshman year in high school. They separated. I'm from Watsonville, Aptos area. I did go to Aptos High. My freshman year was a mess. When you pulled up your screen to kind of go over the concept or the core values of your show, I saw kind of the narrative of your show, which is depression, unmotivation or whatever. I was a lost person freshman year and in high school, I'd say overall. So, but Dad had moved out. Rest his soul. He was a full-blown alcoholic. He used to come home pretty much blasted from work every day. One of my memories, and I say this in a positive light because I talk about this with my wife often, and I do have an awesome wife that also comes from a broken home, but also turned her life and made a huge success out of it. There is a lot of animosity from these times, and I do hold that to this day at almost 50 years old. But, it was, my dad would come home, I'd be skateboarding around with my friends. He would pass out drunk in front of them. It was really a shame, embarrassment, and which later in high school kind of manifested more into anger and drinking and doing bad stuff that I shouldn't have been doing,
Right.
So,
How did it affect you at the time? It must have been really, really tough.
when you're a kid, you don't really... Yeah, it was tough, but that was just the hand I was dealt in life.
Right.
I didn't really know any better. So for me, when my dad left, it was actually, I think it was a good thing. I felt it was a good thing because my parents used to fight. We're talking like doors being broken off hinges. Sitting at a table with your parents, and your parents start to argue, and your mother throws a plate of food at your father's head, and they're like chasing each other down the hallway. And so when he left, it was kind of peaceful in its own way, but was it positive for me as a young man? No, absolutely not. So I began to I didn't really take the drugs, but drinking was something that being introverted or coming from all these issues at home, I was introverted and I kept a lot of that stuff inside. So when I discovered alcohol at 13 or 14, I began to drink at parties and stuff like that. So it was a downward spiral. I barely graduated. I guess you could say you didn't really graduate from high school. I didn't walk. I got a GED because they want,
Yeah, and who were you looking up to at the time?
Looking up to nobody really. Yeah, I don't. we were talking before the podcast. My kids have all these sports they're into, like, basketball, soccer. Nobody took me to any sport games when I was a kid and enrolled me in Boy Scouts or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, I really didn't have a whole lot of role models. I did like music, live bands and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I can't say I didn't really have any role models. And I think that maybe is part of the problem. So.
Yeah. And then after you left home at 17, I understand you were partying, hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Yeah, I moved out, and this guy used to abuse his wife and slept on the floor without a mattress, so.
What was the turning point?
Well, I did. What was the turning point? It's hard to, you're forcing me to look back, but I remember for like my 13th birthday, back when, I was still innocent. I was given a Rand McNally World Atlas or Dictionary or something, maps of the world, and it had this really picturesque view of a mountain chalet in this really deep canyon, and somewhere, I didn't even know where it was at the time, but it was like that quintessential like Swiss Alp, chalet, with the perfect wood pile, and being that my life was such a mess and out of control, and no money, no bank account, just working day to day, living, hanging out with the wrong people. I can say they weren't honestly probably bad people, but they were just people that came from backgrounds like mine, like drinking and, buying 40 ounces for $3 and drinking them on the trestles or whatever. So for me, I wanted a better life. Didn't know how to get it. So I actually had, when I left home at 17, like the very little belongings I had this atlas, and I don't know why I took it, but I put it in my room. So I got in my head that I wanted to see what was out there in the world, and I started working like two jobs during the week, one on the weekend, a lot of them restaurant work in Santa Cruz, and I just bought a one-way ticket. This was all pre 9/11, where you could buy a one-way ticket to Europe. And about 20 years old, I bought a ticket there. I had a whole new like experience. People didn't know who I was. Could kind of recreate myself. Spent a lot of time alone. Traveled all the way from England to Spain, all the way up to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Czechoslovakia, everything in between. And ended up working in a Swiss ski town called Mürren. And just sat on mountains, thought about my life. It wasn't really like, it wasn't like the major change, but it was a change of my path. It was like the roads diverged into like a more of a cleaner living, all these different experiences from people all over the world, a different outlook, less small town Watsonville, Corlitis outlook to more of a worldview, and wanting maybe a better life for myself. So, so that was a big tipping point, and I came back and started working out, coupled with the new lease on life and a better outlook. The workout gave me discipline, which discipline and routine is everything that has gotten me to where I am.
Right.
But, it's really hard to encapsulate into one particular event, but it was like things like positive choices and experiences that started steamrolling me into.
It seems like that atlas that you took at 17 was kind of like a vision board.
Oh yeah, so let me go back to that. I forgot the whole narrative of that story, where I came back home about a year later, after leaving with $2,000 a year earlier, and sometimes not eating for a couple of days, sleeping outside, but generally having the best of my life and the worst of my life all in one trip. I came back, and I had that atlas stored away at my mother's house, pulled it out, and it was Mürren, where I lived. Ended up living for 6 months, and I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So that actual atlas picture that I had stared at for 7 years and dreamed about like how great it would be, actually unintentionally lived like probably a couple hundred yards from that actual chalet, and didn't even know it the whole time. So
that's amazing.
It is kind of crazy how life works that way.
So you came back, and then you were you were working out. You found discipline.
Yeah, I could say was lost, and I'm still lost, man.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I wake up depressed every day of my life, man. If people aren't honest, I'm honest. I don't try to have a facade of some great know-it person. I have to every day talk myself off of a ledge. Not that I'm suicidal, but just get my put my shoes on, strap up, and get ready for the day. But that chaos that was created early on in life will follow me for the rest of my life, and it's there. I can't shake it. There's nothing I could do, nothing I could take. But the only thing that's helped redirect that chaos is those positive routines. So I wake up, have a big thing of water, jump on my Peloton, I stretch, put on a podcast, and that changes the whole course of my day, right? So, without that, I could easily, who knows what I could be,
Right.
So you have to build those routines, and I think that's going to be really the narrative of anything that I could pass on to anybody. It's changing like negative habits that are everywhere in our society, I mean, when I was 17 and 16, like drinking, that's all we did. It was songs about 40 ounces, and that was the escape, right? And there was no like role model telling me, hey man, lift some weights, get some self-confidence. And I 100% lacked any confidence. That's where the alcohol came in. Cheap $3 confidence for a couple of hours, right? Talk to girls, be the guy that you shouldn't be, whatever.
Yeah.
Courage, whatever. So, but the discipline, the routines, the habits, the long time before any sort of results came in like the weightlifting and wanting something so bad actually taught me to be patient, do something every day, brick by brick by brick, where it takes some, to build like a physique at that time, which is what I really wanted.
The consistency.
And it's like, it's not as exciting as most people think. It's going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, it's eating all the certain things, the right things, a certain gram of protein per pound of body weight, trying carbs, deleting carbs, doing deadlifts, all this stuff that kind of I don't really do much anymore, but like it taught me that discipline and patience, knowing that Rome's not going to be built in a day. Biceps are not built in a day, and a business is certainly not built in a day either.
Yeah.
So.
And did you learn more about health when you started working at the supplemental store in Santa Cruz?
No, I kind of knew a lot already. I'm kind of OCD, so once I get into something like cars or whatever, I just completely dive into it where it becomes like obsessive, So we didn't really have the internet back then, so I bought like Arnold and Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding and any book that was related to fitness and nutrition, especially when it came to getting big. I wasn't necessarily trying to be healthy, it was just trying to like be muscular and be the guy that I wanted to be and not be the person that I was.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think all that stems back from not having parental guidance, So it was, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not sad in any way, shape, or form that I went down that road. But first it started with ego, or trying to build a positive image of myself, which is, in a sense, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially when you have a low self-value at the time. So it really helped with that, helped with confidence. And like I tell my 2 boys that without confidence, you can really, you can't really build anything in your life. You know what I mean? So it taught real, first I thought putting on muscle would, make you this certain superhero character. Then I started realizing that doesn't happen overnight. And actually the confidence that came from the bodybuilding and the constant working out was from following through with something. And that built real confidence, So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that idea.
So when you initially opened up your first store with your partner at the time, what was going through your head? I assume you had a little knowledge of owning a business.
I had zero knowledge of physically running an actual business, yeah. So my only knowledge was working the front counter and selling supplements and helping the customers that had come into his store, and when we opened our store, it was just that, like, no knowledge. And this is the type of like partnership where this gentleman really didn't parlay any knowledge to me. And then 8 months when it didn't really work out, he in Salinas, where our joint store was located, where we're located now, he just didn't want to continue on, and I did. So it was really like a trial by fire.
And was the first store right there across from where the old Gold's Gym was? Or was that the other location?
Yeah. There's a Creek Bridge Fitness there.
Yes.
It's right over in Creek Bridge Shopping Center.
Yeah.
That was the first store.
Okay, I remember that store.
Yeah. No, I pretty much worked it. So the only knowledge I had about business was working with customers face to face and treating them with integrity, and trying to do right by them and get them the best possible product, and develop relationships with the customers, and give them what they needed, and honestly, that's all I knew. I knew how to show up on time. I knew how to operate a cash register. I didn't know how to do any accounting. I didn't know how to do any HR stuff. I didn't know how to.
But you had grit.
I had that, and the desire, right? So we wouldn't be sitting here talking today if I didn't put the customers first. And I think that's the only thing that really saved me in these dark times of 7-8 years of trying to figure it out. I was able to figure it out, where the guy that I opened the stores with, I thought he was the greatest thing. And you want to talk about role models, that was somebody who became a role model of mine, the gentleman who had multiple stores, and we opened the store together because he's a family guy, a business guy, owned successful, what I deemed successful stores in the field that I was interested in. And so he became a role model, but he left, and I had to kind of, through grit and determination, figure it out, and make a lot of mistakes, and just keep opening the door every day and treating people right. And in our darkest times, we had really loyal customers that just stuck with us because, we treated them like human beings. And if anyone ever comes and asks me for advice about business, I could, at this point, almost 20 years later, 18 years later, I can offer a lot. But the number one thing is to actually give a darn about your customers,
right,
and give a darn about your business, the appearance of your business, what you're selling, and offer something of value to people that, or else they have no reason to come back.
Right.
So, right. So
Jim Collins once said, "Great vision without great people is irrelevant."
He's right.
How
Jim's
far?
The GOAT.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Jim Collins is, you should find out.
Yeah, I'm actually going to end up reading his book
Yeah.
soon.
I mean, it's kind of, at this point, it's dated, but that's another thing, of my simple life. I did start having success, and going back to the guy that, who was a role model, we've 10x'd whatever he did when I was working for him. And I think he's moved out of the area and closed the stores, or sold them off. Much more complicated business, totally different than the way he did. No knocks to him, but just learned a different way of doing things. And that's attributed, like in my darkest times, defaulted to patterns and routines. And in a low point in business, Jim Collins, his book From Good to Great, was given to me by my wife, who was in the medical field, leadership field. And I put it, I'm not necessarily a big reader, but I like audiobooks. So I put it on replay, and I basically listened to it every morning while I was doing cardio for 6 months. And it just really sunk in. Let me premise that too. My wife gave me the book, but it's my t-shirt guy, Daryl Garcia from Color Tech, who talked to me about the book and made me actually crack it open and then purchase the audiobook and start really listening to it. So it's a combination of both. But Daryl, over the years, has given me a lot of positive encouragement in books and stuff like that. So.
And how far were you into your business before you started hiring people?
A long time. other than like your weekend guy or a friend open up on the Sunday for you or come in for a couple hours. It's hard to say. I mean, it's been probably 10 years, 12 years. Yeah. And when I did start hiring people, it was one or two guys or girls, whatever, that would work for me, but it was very limited exposure.
Yeah.
So a lot of time just me standing there waiting for every sale.
Yeah.
Making every sale count, sometimes hours in between sales, rearranging the store, trying to make it look fresh, using empty protein containers of my own that I consumed to try to like make displays in my windows to try to attract customers. It was if I can't tell you the amount of hours and of alone in a store I've spent, it's kind of mind-boggling but it was all part of the process that brought us here today.
But what pushed you through those days?
I don't know. I had started something and I just wasn't gonna quit, I guess.
Yeah.
I just, in my mind, I had, have you heard the term, you burn the ships at the beach, like, and you attack the island, right? Like, there's no retreat.
Yeah.
So for me, there was no retreat. I wasn't going to leave this a failure. And there's many, many times that I should have or could have left throughout the years, but I just never quit, and I think that's like a narrative that we all need to realize. I think that, what Jim Collins in the book Good to Great really cemented, that you need to pick one thing and that you can be the best in the world at and just stick to it and hammer at that. And then, with me being a person from like that broken home and, eventually my dad passed away. We had no relationship. He offered me, God rest his soul, but he offered me no real advice on life and no tips of winning or anything really, sadly to say. And hearing these books and having these positive reinforcements, that what seems to me stumbled into this life, but it really, looking back and even like verbalizing it now, it was probably destiny that I fell into this, because who knows where I'd be now,
right.
What I mean? So, but Jim Collins, the book it's a very simple book. It's pick, the hedgehog concept, being the one thing in the world and not getting too deviated into other things. So if we're a supplement store, meals go hand in hand, but I don't start selling insurance. You stay in that hedgehog and you just chip away. The flywheel concept, which is like, every day, like success is turning a flywheel, this massive flywheel. And a lot of times, like, you'll push this massive flywheel and it'll go like a millimeter, and you'll come for like 5 years pushing the millimeter, and it begins to gain momentum. And maybe after 30 years, it starts turning so fast, it's throwing people off. And it's moving on its own. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was a major point.
Yeah. And the first time you brought meal preps to MaxFit, it was from your buddy Billy Anderson at Go Fresh Meals. But when the demand was too high, what was the game plan to do it yourself?
No, so in all honesty, Billy is another great guy. I don't know if you follow Billy at all. Very positive. He's a motivational guy. I still talk to Billy often. I think he's gone from Go Fresh. He sold that, and he's now doing like marketing and motivational stuff. What was the plan? The plan was just to make it happen. I don't know if there was any great plan. And, like anything else, we just started, I guess there was a plan to succeed. There was a desire to succeed. There was grit to succeed. And I guess a confidence in myself. And just the backstory of the first, 14 years before we started selling meals of should have quit and just didn't quit, that there was just there's no question in my mind that I wasn't going to pull it off. So I didn't have like some 10-page business plan to do it, but we made it happen.
Did you go through several restaurants to do the meal
plans? We did transition to one, and now we're with the current guy that I'm a partner with.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we now own some substantial like manufacturing equipment, and I do help in like the management in some degree, and we're evolving into like our own like partnership over there. So it's been a constantly evolving thing. But yeah, we did go try a restaurant out, and moved on from there without,
Yeah.
you know, I'm never like, I don't want to look back but yeah, we've made our mistakes and we've tried different things. And then for me though, it always comes down to, and I think the only reason we're still in the meal prep business, we focus on quality, we focus on consistency. And if something doesn't work, we move on. And, you know, we're not ever trying to like upset the apple cart. If something does work, we go all in on it, right? Like I'm not greedy. I'm not trying to cut anyone out of any partnership. Actually, the best thing is about business, you know, is your customers, but also the people you work with too. So,
And you have over 30 meals, right?
I think we have about 35 right
35,
now. Yeah,
that's
I think
incredible.
we're sell upwards to 300,000 meals this year. So you know, and we've invested heavily in COVID and during COVID, excuse me. And like I was saying, my current meal provider partner, because he's a partner in the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we might own certain things, but without them, this conversation doesn't exist. And I think vice versa, right? So there's a great acknowledgement of all the people that have helped to build this brand, because it's not just me, and I don't want to sit here and just like pat myself on the back. And you know, that's one thing is a pet peeve of mine. It's like you know, you do as the CEO or the founder, or the guy that people have seen, you know, for the last 20 years almost. I do get a lot of the credit, but I can't honestly take a lot of the credit. I do right the ship, and I do have a core vision that I follow, but like end of the day, like without all the different heads and like the chef that creates amazing food, like people wouldn't come in for it. The store manager, the general manager who keeps the stores clean, organized, and make sure stuff's there, make sure that everything's stocked, make sure our employees are happy, you know, have the schedules they want. It's become from a guy that for a guy who was sleeping on a 17 years old, working at a car wash, sleeping on in a sleeping bag in a household with an abusive husband, to like, you know, depending on the time of the year, we have 12, 15 employees at the stores. The facility has upwards to 20. All the moving parts from the smoothie bar to the, you know, one thing you didn't have is we do own some supplement companies as well. So ordering that, making sure it's stocked, labels, design, being able to pull all that off sometimes, like, you know, I really do every morning. I feel like I'm in a dream, and it's a weird feeling, right? So when I said I wake up in the morning, it's a combination of being overwhelmed, like stuff from the past, to just the utter like amazement of like everything that's happened in my life. And sometimes I don't feel like I deserve it, right? But I think that is a mentality that I try to keep, right? Like I never want to think that I'm some great, better person than other people. It's if you maintain humility, and you keep focus on premium quality, and then like keep figuring out how to be the best business possible. And I think that combination of like all the stuff that I've gone through, key players in the team, we're on like a pretty amazing path right now. It's pretty stunning, you know, to be around, you know, and like sometimes I'm feeling like I'm on the outside looking in, you know, it's crazy. So
yeah. So a few years ago, you know, something happened. What was your reaction when a specific competitor that is no longer around publicly said that they were going to close MaxFit out of business? What was your reaction to that?
I think it was their worst mistake they ever did. You know, they
I
might
agree.
be still open if they didn't do that, because I've never really had anyone else say that. And we have GNC, Vitamin Shop, and I'm sure there's other stores that are open I don't even know about. What did it do? It brought out that kid, you know, because deep down inside there's that kid that people didn't you know, if your parents aren't really looking out for you, who is, right? So if you're going to take something that is my blood, you know, that I've spent, you know, gazillion hours building, if you're going to take that from me, you're going to put me out of business, you better freaking eat your Wheaties, dude. Because like I'd rather die. I'm not talking big. It's not some tough guy stuff, but you're gonna have to put me in the grave before that happens. So looking back, I think that was some of the most successful years we had, right? Like they would, say, actually, I think they would take shots on social media, and I really kept that stuff to a minimal, and I internalized it, and then I would just like study them, and if they were selling Bang energy cases or for a certain amount, I'd sell them cheaper, and then I would get like 10 freaking pallets and put them out front of my store, and I would market more, and I think actually that time, I actually should thank them. So I don't know if they'll ever hear this, but they're actually probably the reason that we went from like a certain figure store to like a multi-million-dollar store, because that extra marketing I was doing, that fear of like of somebody putting me out of business, and the threats of somebody putting me out of business made me work harder, but it actually made me work smarter. So I think initially when they started doing that, I was laying in bed one night, and I was there's a lot of stress that goes along with being a business owner, and I think some stress had woken me up at like 3 a.m, and I'm sure you've heard of Gary Vee, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was probably like 7 years ago.
Right.
I got up in the middle of the night, so I started playing my phone, and Gary Vee, I was a YouTube video. It was very early, like I had just heard of Gary Vee, and he was like, "Hey man, like Facebook's it. That's the way to dump all your ad dollars," and I didn't have any ad dollars. And he goes, "You know what? Like, just put $5 a day or whatever on Facebook, boost a post." So I ended up doing just that. Like at 3 a.m, I had some Facebook posts, and I put like, I don't know, $1 a day. I think I committed to $40 a month running ads, and it just like landslide. So we really started doubling down on marketing, and it really had a huge return, especially in the early days before the analytics changed and all that of Facebook. Had a much bigger audience back then. So so I think the original question is marketing, and it transitioned into this question you'd ask next, but it put pressure on me. Like, you're not going to beat me. I'm not going to talk shit. Can I say? Yeah. I'm not going to talk shit about you online. I'm a person, like, if you talk shit about me, I'm going to say, hey, what can Kris do to like beat you? And what do I need to fix? And what can I actually do? Like, cause that to me is just ego stunning or whatever online. But I'm going to actually figure out a way to beat you. And when it comes to business, what I've learned over the years is if we're going to go toe to toe, my weapons to beat you, because it is a war over dollars, is marketing.
Yeah.
So were
you the marketing team, or did you have a marketing
Did not
team?
have a team back then. Yeah. So I eventually hired a team. Became a team. I hired a guy. Did all kinds of different stuff. So the marketing is almost like a business on its own right, So I think any successful business needs to really triple down on marketing. So, but yeah, that's what helped us beat them. And I can't remember their name at this point. I think they're long gone, and we became stronger and more polished. And any time, like in business, there's been some adversity, whether it's a competitor, whether it's COVID. I think it's been our default. It's been my kind of default because of the early days of bodybuilding, looking in and just being alone, hammering it out. Look internally, figure out how we can grow, how we can be better. So that time we became better at marketing, better at just store design, got out there, grinded, spent more time, had better deals, more value to the customer, and just didn't talk. And then, we're still here, they're gone.
Yeah. And then how was your work-life balance before having a family versus having a family?
My work-life balance is terrible then and terrible early on. And it's just now recently getting a lot better.
Yeah.
And that's all because of like what we've created, like the machine we've created, and that's freedom via systems and free, meetings. And I lead and I manage, early on, didn't know any of this stuff, didn't go to school for business, was not taught, did not have a mentor for business other than my wife. But over the years, we've created, we follow certain business philosophies, and that's created work-life balance and freedom. And without them, I don't think it would exist in my life. So it's pretty good now. Like this morning, I went to my kids like a pep rally, and I go to their volleyball games and soccer games. So it's pretty good, man.
They must love that.
You know, it's true. And then what I try to do is, like, I don't know anything about sports, but, like, you know, my son, I have one son's just a natural scoring goals. Another one's grew, and he's getting all this attention, and sometimes he doesn't realize how to, like, internalize it. And I just say, keep your head up, chest out, and get out there. And that's the only advice I have. But it all comes back to confidence in yourself. And then, like, and when you have confidence, I think you perform better at sports, but also in your job. So, you know, I can sit here with confidence and tell you this stuff. Whereas if you would have met me 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have had that confidence. And it's earned confidence of trying things and following through with things. So, yeah.
I love that. And then I like to think of you and your wife, Carla, as a power couple. She's a director of critical care and emergency services at our local hospital. But how did two busy professionals manage to raise two awesome boys?
Well, a lot of that is her, straight up. I mean, she is a old school woman through and through. My wife is a highly focused person, taskmaster. She's very organized. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else I could say. That she uses the same skill set that she has at work, at home. Everything is planned out, organized. My kids are 1,000 times better off. It's more taken care of than I ever would have been, and they're better off for it. So I mean, we don't live a movie life per se. It's serious, and you know. But at the end of the day, life is serious, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They buy into this big lie that either from Hallmark Channel or Disney or whatever movie or media you're watching, that you have a lot of time to, like, goof off, and you know. And trust me, we live a good life. We vacation and we take our time, but, like, when it's time to work and it's time to get stuff done, it's done. Yeah. So you know, Carla has a lot to do with our home success, and you know, I'm along for the ride, and I don't fight it. You know, a lot of guys try to fight it, and you know, and I'm definitely a father, and I think, you know, my boys need a father, and I'm there for the journey. But my wife's super organized, and you know, I don't fight that, and I go along with it, and it's benefited my life too, being around somebody who's organized, somebody who gets up at 4:30 every day and just starts making things happen. So I'm blessed in that department, and you know, I think I wouldn't. Let me go back, and I wouldn't have all this without my wife.
She was a game changer for you.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, like destiny, whatever. I don't know. Wait, I'm not that philosophical, but, like, I know a lot of people think that I have the secrets. I don't. I think a lot of it's not fighting destiny, not letting your ego get in the way of your own success, and whether it's God, whatever you believe in, hands you stuff, don't fight it, and respect what he hands you, you know, and just keep it polished, keep shining it like a hot rod. You know, you're given a hot rod or you buy one, don't beat it up, man. Appreciate it, clean it, live and have at it. But, like, in the day, remember where you came from and where you're at. So.
Yeah. And without giving too much away, what can we expect from MaxFit in the next 2 years?
I'm never one to hide, because there's nothing really to hide, right? You'll find out eventually. There's nothing many people have tried to beat me, beat us, because it's not me. That's one thing I think when it's MaxFit, don't think Kris, think us, the team, and the brand itself. Well, what's next for us? We're national shipping. We're updating our website. More stores to come. More shipping locations, more marketing, more billboards, more success, bigger offices, more content. We're moving in an office here in the next month, and the point is just to go full on, like, hyper organized and triple down on our systems, and like Jim Collins said, first who, then what, adding more quality people to our team, and continue to learn and grow. So tripling down on what's brought us here, and leadership with compassion, leadership with knowledge, but with communication and expectations. Deliverables. We're really into deliverables. We set goals. So we have quarterly goals. I won't get too off the track, but we follow. Gino Wickman has a book called Traction, Traction Outlier, which is we pretty much run the business off of traction, and that's about, we have traction meetings, which are very structured meetings. They have deliverables, what's new, what's next. So anyone that's, moderately down the journey of their business, I would look into Traction and start running, running weekly, bi-weekly, nightly meetings and setting goals and deliverables for your staff. And that's created like the, balance in my personal life where, being more focused while we're together as a team and now working more with the leaders as opposed to, sweeping the floor or whatever, making sure that's hyper-focused and setting goals. And
Have you been hitting your goals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we've had a down year since like 2008. It's pretty crazy. And I know there, during COVID, there was a lot of people that had a lot of pain, and we definitely suffered for the initial shutdowns, but we quickly bounced back and, learned how to do more with less. So, and that's, when I say you better eat your Wheaties, we're not like weak-minded, right? When something happens, we're going to run towards the storm.
Yeah.
We're going to build a fort. We're going to attack. We're going to bury in, and we're going to face that storm head on. We're not going to run and retreat. And I think that's where the only way I can be confident. And when it's time for me to go, and I get away from this business, or I'm old and I'm gone, like I want to know that like I did all I could to leave a legacy for my family and to, in all intents and purposes, write my own legacy, my own family name. And when people think of me, you don't have to always like me per se, but you definitely want them to respect what I did and know that it was done with integrity and done with good intentions, and to be a positive influence in the community and everyone around us. So.
Yeah, and then with you going nationally with the Max Fit meals, how can the community support you in your goals with that?
It's my job to knock your socks off where the food's so good that you tell your cousin in Ohio or whatever, like you should give this stuff a shot. So, referrals are always awesome and always help, and but we always want to earn those referrals, and we don't ever want to disappoint anyone that's referred to us as well. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for your time. Please tell the listeners where they can find you.
You can find me on social media at MaxFitFounder. You can find the businesses at social media, all social media, at MaxFitMeals, at ShopMaxFit. You can visit our website at maxfitmeals.com. We do ship food to pretty much every state in the union besides Alaska and Hawaii. So we offer actually a pretty darn good value, and there's no real subscription commitment like a lot of other companies in our genre. So yeah, it's real easy, convenient. And if you're local in Monterey, Monterey County, you can just pop into Salinas in Monterey. Salinas store is right in Old Town Salinas, and Monterey store is right next to Mercedes dealership in Monterey. So.
Got it.
Yep.
And one last question. For
Sure.
those people that want to start a business in something that they feel passionate about but doesn't know where to start, what would you tell them?
Just start walking down the road. A lot of stuff just happens. You just do it. Obviously there's simple steps. Like you have a concept, and I would maybe find a mentor or somebody. I'm not always busy where I can't talk to somebody, so I'll throw that out there if they ever want to talk to me, and just be prepared if my opinion is not God, but I personally would bounce the idea of somebody you respect, like a mentor or a local leader, business leader, and see if you feel like it's something that would translate into something scalable. But in the day, once you figure all that stuff out, you just have to get your business license and all the simple stuff. But you just get on a quick Google search. It's not really all that hard. The hardest part is not quitting after 2.5 years when you're not as rich as you thought you were going to be, and sticking with it over time. But I could tell you now, I'm somebody who likes the natural high. I like the challenge, and I don't believe that life was meant to be easy. I know a lot of people seek comfort. I'm like everybody else in a lot of ways, but the road less traveled will get you a lot more satisfaction. And I do recommend the lifestyle. It's very challenging, but once you get to where you want to be, there's no other feeling, and the feeling of respect that you get from doing things that others really can't. And I think it's a very rewarding lifestyle. So, I'll reiterate, if anyone ever wants to bend my ear, I'm always around. Hit me up. And now you can find me at MaxFitFounder. So
Love
on
it.
Instagram.
Love it. Thank you for listening. If this brought value to you, please do me a favor and like and subscribe and share with someone that needs to hear this. This is Evolve with Alex G Podcast. Take care and spread love.
Evolve. Yeah. It's that 2020 mode. Feel me? Aye.
Young
Yeah. See, I had to switch it up with the flow. Time to open up another door. See my past in the rear view, but I'm still hearing them chains clink.